In regarding many things that kind of are on people's minds regarding New World Order, different things like that. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that stuff. It's not like it's fake, but I do want people to be cautioned about overreacting because the scam, or I'll just call it a scam. The way it's actually done is through the Hegelian dialect. You have to have a reaction to something to produce a new outcome, so you have to have conflict. So sometimes when you think you're fighting something, you're actually working in the trap that they planned all along. And I want people to be thinking and not be lemmings, but not also to overreact. So it's good to react, but in a rational way. I guess, the simplest things to stick with is the Bill of Rights. How's that? You don't even need to know the Constitution. You just need to know the Bill of Rights. You say, we got the Bill of Rights. This is what it says. That's the law of the land. And there you go, right? They weren't stupid. It's a good damn thing they came up with that document as an afterthought, because if they didn't, we'd already have all been screwed by now, because supposedly the federal government laws are supposed to be only go as far as what's authorized in the Constitution. They went way farther than that, so it's a good thing they did have that Bill of Rights. That's one little document, simple to keep in mind about things that worry people, with the New World Order and all this garbage. Now, I want to also examine this statement from Dr. Henry Kissinger, which was supposedly stated. I'll say supposedly because, it's not really officially written in any novel he wrote, because I think, it was supposed to be more or less a statement that he didn't want public, I'd imagine. Supposedly attributed to him at a Bilderberg conference in France in 1991. Now, this is posted on physicsforum.com, and it's posted basically back in November 9th, 2003. Now, I read this statement many years ago also, basically when it was pretty new, Like, I've been around reading this garbage for a while, and I realize the game is very, very slow. It's like they get people all riled up about something. It's almost like they test the waters or some garbage. There is a conspiracy for a new world order, There is. But, there's also debate, I would imagine, on the top. Say there are these planners and all this garbage like that. There are these planners that are disagreeing with each other because different people have different characters. Now, anyway, I just want, people to keep in mind two things. This quote from Henry Kissinger and the Bill of Rights. And if you keep that in mind and you make all your arguments, or maybe from that point of view, like the Bill of Rights says such and such, it's like you're sticking within the law of the land. So that's what you need to do. But this goes on to state that this is a quote supposedly from Henry Kissinger, Dr. Henry Kissinger, 1991, Bilderberg. He goes on to state, today, America would be outraged if UN troops entered Los Angeles to restore order. He was referring to the 1991 Watts riot, LA riot. Tomorrow, they will be grateful. This is especially true if they were told there was an outside threat from beyond, say like an extraterrestrial invasion, whether real or promulgated, that threatened our very existence. That's kind of like what the communist garbage was about, too. There had to be an enemy to fight, right? I'm commenting on that now. It is then that all peoples of the world will plead to deliver them from this evil. The one thing every man fears is the unknown. When presented with this scenario, individual rights will be willingly relinquished for the guarantee of their well-being granted to them by the world government. They want everybody scared, so how am I safe? How am I safe? So this is, it's playing psychology, and Dr. Henry Kissinger that's really what his role was. He was political science and psychology. Academic career, he received his MA and PhD degrees from Harvard, 1952 and 54 respectively. While at Harvard, he served as consultant to director of the Psychological Strategy Board. And that's, you know, even this thing where we used to have the big Red Scare in the 1950s, actually in the 1960s, you know, communism was spreading, and that was a lot of, well, I can't say it wasn't true because there's a lot of facts there, but it was like fostered in such a way to bring about such fear in the United States that other things were implemented too. More things that are needed to protect people, you know, more alphabet soup agencies and different things like that. So it's always fear that is used to implement new change, or conflict is used to implement new change. So what I could, you know, advise people is that the game they play is actually, they want people fearful. They want people to overreact to the New World Order scenarios. They want people to do this garbage. That's part of the game too. And I say they because I know there is a game out there for that. Powerful people usually want more power, and they got no limits. So this game always goes on. But the one thing to always stick with is the Bill of Rights. Pretty simple, right? Right to free speech, right to bear arms, that type of stuff. And number one is right to free speech, right? So just keep communicating with each other too. But I like this quote from Henry Kissinger because I always thought at one point in time it's going to play out today, and but it's almost like, say for instance today they had Soviet troops quelling riots and stuff like that. You know what I'd be doing? This is what the people ought to be doing. Say, there's nothing you could do. They're already here, right? Give them vodka. Get them vodka. Get them. Be friends with the guys. I'm telling you right now. Do it all the way. You know what I'm saying? And give them a copy of the Bill of Rights. Say, this is what America's about. Make them converts into the Bill of Rights. You see what I'm saying? That's the one way you can really subvert the New World Order. They're screwed up then. You don't want to actually fight them. You want to win them over. That's the shrewd way. They want the conflict so they can produce the change. Yeah, you say for instance this scenario happens, UN troops or Soviet troops or whatever. Be their friends. Bring them over to our way. Or the way the original founding fathers had it. Probably ain't our way anymore, but Bill of Rights. And you remember, number one on the Bill of Rights is freedom of speech. So that's a word to the wise. I want to keep this one kind of short, but don't get fallen into their trap. This is an interesting quote, but just watch how you you look at the quote and you say, God, they're after us. No, play the game smart. So anyway, that's about all I got to say about this, because there's going to be so many scenarios coming up that it's like you can go from one to the other like Alex Jones, and that guy's got a whole drama series about all this garbage. But just remember about the Bill of Rights, number one, and what's number one on the Bill of Rights is freedom of speech, and number two is bear arms too, right? So you're allowed to do that too, but don't have to use them. That's the point. Remember, even like the Second Amendment, when you're justified in implementing that is in self-defense, last resort, preservation of your life, or if you're in the military, lawful order, which is anything, right? That's the catch-all phrase. But anyway, I can't comment much on that. That's the military. But as far as, in this country, if you saw something like, hey, here's Red Dawn. Well, if they're Russian troops, let's bring out the vodka. You know what I mean? And then show them the Bill of Rights. Show them, hey, this is our basic law of the land, how it was originally set up. Watch, you get converts. You'd be surprised.